turn over to Dr. Perino to hear her perspective on this. Please.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and I'm very happy to be here. And so I would like to address the question coming from the point of view of where I come from, and that's in the Philippines. And there I teach in the university, and I also am a guest lecturer in Guangming College. So I'll be coming from that perspective. And also, let me just lift from what the Venerable was saying a while ago with regards to the Brahma Viharas, or the 4 divine immeasurables. So the virtues are very important, and it's how we should conduct ourselves, right? And it's how we should aspire to be. The virtues of compassion, loving kindness, generosity, wisdom, moral conduct, right? And being exposed with the youth, because of my experience with teaching with them, I can sense that this time around, they are more engaged in the sense that they would like their voice to be heard, and they are more critical of what is going on in the world. And I think that's a good thing. And when we say that they want their voice to be heard, that can also easily be corrupted if not guided by the proper virtues. And so that's why I find the teachings of humanistic Buddhism very helpful, okay? Because in this fast-paced world where there's, as what we have heard in the sessions yesterday, there's always, the new brand of technology, the latest upgrade, right? How are we gonna keep up with that? So we need the virtues to keep us grounded and help us how to get a better handle on things, on how we can navigate ourselves on this ever-changing, fast-paced world that we are in, okay? A world of volatility. All right. As with the Buddhist youth, before coming over, I actually invited my friends from the YAD, and that's the Young Adults Division. Well, they were once YAD, now they are not so young adults anymore. Okay, and they're saying that what was really helpful for them was the 3 acts of goodness. Do good deeds, speak good words, think good thoughts. The 4 givings, give people joy, convenience, happiness, and what did I miss? Anyway, the 4 givings. And they're saying that it was really helpful for them, especially now that they have their own business and they have their own families. They are able to invite their employees to attend Dharma talks, and he also said he is better off this time applying the teachings of humanistic Buddhism in the sense that he is less irritable in dealing with his employees as well as with his family life. So I think that's very helpful, and we can really see the change in the individual, right? From once youth, now young adult, and an older adult, and how he has managed to apply the teachings of humanistic Buddhism in his life. He's less irritable, he's more patient, he's more compassionate, and he uses loving kindness in his approach to our average everydayness. Thank you.
All right, just to follow through with Dr. Perino Maria, she mentioned about in the age of AI. So I think yesterday our Venerable Myongkong and also Juetze has mentioned about AI digital age. Are we going to be friends or are we going to be enemy with the AI? I don't think we can be enemy with AI, right? So we need to learn how to be friends with AI, but in an ethical manner. So this next questions I'm going to pose to Associate Professor Dr. Marcus. So the question is, in the age of AI and rapid change, how can we leverage innovative approaches to share Buddhist teachings and make them accessible to a broader audience? Please.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind here is new ways of generative AI now have opened up ways of translation that were not possible before. So I don't know if you have been following this, but over the last 1,500 years, there has been a lot of translation being done from Buddhist scriptures to other languages, and this is sort of very shinku work, so it's very difficult and very slow, right? It's not so easy to do. And now we have something called machine translation, and suddenly these large language models, they can do machine translation much better than all the other systems that we had before. in spite of not being trained for machine translation. So this is an emergent property of these AI machines. And now we are at a stage where you can put in a whole sutra and you get an English output, or a Malay output, or an Arabic output, or a Swahili output or so. And this is not perfect yet, but it's much, much, much better than it used to be. So for the translator now, the way of the translator will change from starting from scratch to editing the outputs of these machine translations. And that's a big change. But for Buddhism as a practice, there is an opportunity there in the sense that we can now produce faster, better translations also in languages which were not obvious before. I mean, we're always translating first into English because that's a sort of a central language. But then what about Arabic, for example, right? Or what about Indian languages, low resource languages? So that's something for the promotion of the Dharma, which is, I think, all over possible. Why shouldn't the Sutta Pitaka not be available in Arabic or so? So that's a good prospect for me to see that.
Thank you so much, Associate Professor Dr. Marcus. So I think all of us are pretty much very curious. What about from the insider perspective in the age of digital AI? How can it help us, right? So we're going to hear from Venerable Miao Guang.
When you ask how do we actually leverage innovative approaches to share the Buddhist teachings, my translation of the question is the same as, okay, when you ask me, how can we eat chocolate in a more innovative way? Right? Do we eat it as chocolate fondue? Do we eat it as a chocolate popsicle? Do we eat it with curry by adding coffee into the chocolate and so on? But at the end of the day, what we are still tasting is just one thing. It's actually chocolate. And so speaking of the Buddhist teaching or the Dharma is actually that chocolate. Right? At the end of the day, what you're going to be asking for is that. And excuse me for establishing an occupational hazard from having to translate a dictionary in the past 10 years. I always like to define our words in a question to make sure I'm answering in scope. So by rapid change, we might discover that in the presentations of the Dharma, right, the change actually isn't that rapid. I hope you agree with me. What actually remains unchanging, again, is the spirit of the Dharma. What remains unchanging is the thousand-old Buddhist art. The stories and narratives we read all the time about the Buddha stories, the Bodhisattva stories. And what remains unchanged, again, is like what Marcus has mentioned, the canonical text that has not changed for the past 2,600 years. But what changed is actually our way of understanding it and translating it. And so if you look at all of this as the chocolate at the end of the day, right? Whatever it is that we present to the young people today, that's actually the core of it. That will always stay firm and it will remain the same. Yeah, that's how I look at the Dharma in the age of AI. Yeah, but the changing aspect is actually the media by which all of this Buddhist information is delivered. You actually read about a story either on a smartphone, you read it through a podcast, on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. You may listen to it, you may watch it, in visual or audio or maybe just artistic or textual ways. Yeah, but while the media or the forms may change, while people's habit of acquiring information may change, but what we want to deliver at the end of the day should remain the same as what the Buddha did, right? To solve the questions about life, so we learn to navigate through all the dukkha we face every day with a greater sense of perfect ease. And so at Fo Guangshan, what we hope to deliver is for people still to learn to be able to appreciate the beauty of Buddhist art from 2,600 years ago. Right? We hope that people will still appreciate the preciousness of going on a pilgrimage in the digital world. And so in the 5 years, we actually collaborated with Professor Jeffrey Shaw, who is from the Hong Kong Baptist University, a digital artist who created the pilgrimage sites, for example, the Angkor Wat, the Borobudur, and also the temples in Thailand, and all the very ancient but precious temples in China in a panoramic room. So if you go inside this room, it has a 12-meter diameter space. When you're standing there, you're pretty much immersed in the Buddhist sites. You stand there, the anchor word comes to you in all angles. And what you do is you stand there and then you feel the ambience, right, of the site. And then you appreciate the beauty of the carvings in Borobudur. And at that moment, you again reconnect with the roots of your faith and how people established their dedication to the Buddha and how they actually praise Buddha as the founder of their religion. So these haven't changed, but it's actually the new media that gave us different angles and different scopes to how we, again, reestablish our connection with either the words or the arts. And so I would say in the age of AI, we can be creative in the ways that we present the beauty of the Buddhist world. But after all, I'm going to quote from Jeffrey Shaw's partner, Professor Sarah Kenderdine from Lausanne. She says, when you ask about rapid change, you might discover that change actually hasn't happened that rapidly. A lot of things have stayed the same. Right? When you use the smartphone, when you use the computer, right, you're still looking through a screen. Right? And when you look through the screen, you're still looking for the same thing. Yeah, so I believe right now, when we are coming back to the very root or the original intent of the Buddha, how do we once again touch base with what the Buddha wanted us to see through our own angles? And if we see that, any AI media which we apply to these very precious gems will still allow us to establish that sense of devotion, that sense of faith, and a stronger connection with the Buddha. Yeah, so at the end of the day, don't be fooled by the myth of change. What hasn't changed is within you. You've got to look for that want and need within you that never changes, and only you have the answer. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Venerable Myung Kwang, for that insight. Okay, yesterday, right, during the Venerable Juan Chang has actually introduced to us platforms. Do you still remember the interactive platforms, remember? I'm just checking. Okay, so I feel like we can leverage innovative approaches such as interactive apps, virtual platforms, and multimedia content. So perhaps we could open these questions to the audience, right? Because we are living in the AI digital age. So we're going to open these questions to the crowd. What is your take, and where do you stand in this digital age? Do you think that we can leverage this AI age to help to explore this Buddhist teaching to more people in the community? Anyone? Perhaps you could raise your hand and we could have someone to pass the mic to you. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Raymond. Thank you, panel of professors. Right, let me introduce what I do apart from volunteering in Fo Guang Shan. Right? I'm an R&D director in a technology firm, so I deal with AI every day. In fact, I'm developing some AI application that can help engineers apply AI more easily than doing actual coding, right? So they can use AI in their everyday life to solve their engineering problems, right? So when we talk about AI, actually I'm very interested, right? So to me, when I use AI every day, almost every day I use ChatGPT, for example, right, is to help me do my work more efficiently. To me, AI is a tool. And sometimes I could not understand why there's a lot of people to demonize AI. Of course, there's a danger side of AI because it's actually rubbish in, rubbish out. If people send in misinformation, of course the AI will output misinformation. That's why, to me, Buddhism, what I study or what I learn in Fo Guang Shan is very important. While I use AI tool, I need to have that self-awareness, 自觉, right? So that I can understand what is the right and wrong. So at the end of the day, when we use AI, we still need to use our beliefs our knowledge to differentiate the information that we get. And we cannot just 照单全收. You cannot just take everything that is being presented to us. At the end of the day, we still have to decipher what is the right information that we want to pick up. In that sense, the knowledge gathering that we go through the traditional way, like studying, doing researching, is still important, because AI, at the end of the day, is just a tool. But this tool can help us to be more efficient, of course, in a company sense, cut costs, right? Right? So that we can get to where we want in a faster manner. Right? That's my thought. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, especially coming from you that dealt with AI on a daily basis. Okay, so this is true that what Venerable Melgong has mentioned, no matter how much digital has come into our lives, what's very important is coming back to us, how we leverage or how we use AI. We know that everyone's saying that AI, 4G, 5G, but how is it influencing ourselves in terms of teaching Buddhists to others, or how we are integrating it to our daily life? I think this is more relevant and relatable to all of us. Right, so the next questions I'm going to ask here is, what strategies have been successful in bridging the generational gap within Buddhist communities, ensuring the transmission of wisdom from older generation to our younger generation, which is our youth? So with this, I will invite Dr. Maria.
Okay, so what are the strategies that have been used? And I actually enumerated 4, but since we were talking in AI, that's my 3rd. Let me make that as my number 1. Okay, so yes, so given all the new advancement in technologies and everything, so for example, I'm 40 plus, so I think I'll just use Facebook. So coming from yesterday's forum. Okay, so let's say you're opening Facebook and you find there a picture of you, and you say, oh, I don't like my picture there because I'm kind of fat there. And will you react? Or will you tell the person, oh, delete that? Or will you tell the person to enhance this? But if you have the teachings of humanistic Buddhism, you try to have the equanimity. You know, you don't react right away with what you see, what you hear, given all the, even fake news on the internet. Okay, so you have the virtues instilled within you. Things may change, but the virtues remain the same. Okay, when you see someone, for example, and he or she will tell you something off, do you react right away? Right? Well, most of us would react, but then that's not applying what humanistic Buddhism is all about. So we tend to be more compassionate. Why is he reacting this way? Maybe he or she is coming from a bad day. So I tend to detach ourselves from the situation, and then that's when we're able to breathe and apply compassion or loving kindness or simply goodwill, right? So that's veering away from technology, but that's how we can use humanistic Buddhism as strategies, okay? Let me now go to my second one. I think it's very important. Again, I'm coming from the experience of being in the Philippines. So back in the Philippines, we have 4 Fo Guangshan temples in Manila, Cebu, Iloilo, and Bacolod. I come from Cebu. And it's very helpful, really, if you have an English-speaking monastic, because then the communication would be better. I remember back in 2012, we had a venerable assigned to us, Venerable Yolin, and the first thing that she wanted to know, she knows how to speak English, but the first thing that she wanted to know, she asked me to help her speak Cebuano, our language. That way she can easily relate and communicate. And it was in fact very effective, but because of that, many people went to Chuon Temple, both the young and the not so young or the young ones. So I think that's a very effective strategy to have someone in the temple that knows the language so that it would be easy to relate to the people. So I think that's one strategy that's very good. Third, when it comes to culture and arts, Buddhism is very rich in culture. Buddhism is very rich in arts. So back in Cebu, you know, it's always a treat for the Cebuanos when there's what we call the celebration of Chinese New Year, because they always associate Buddhism with Chinese, right? And so, as always, ever since forever, it seems that every Chinese New Year, people would flock in Chuon Temple. They would love it very much. And so we take that as an occasion, right? For them to know what is Buddhism, who is Venerable Master Xingyun, right? What are the important teachings of Venerable Master Xingyun? So we do that every Chinese New Year. Another one is we have this Heritage Night. And it's auspicious because Heritage Night happens on the week of Buddha's birthday. So whenever there is Heritage Night, we also have the Buddha's birthday celebration, and then the people tend to experience the Buddha's birthday, and that somehow will rouse their curiosity. So who is the Buddha? What is the Buddha, right? And what is Buddhism? And that's also a chance for us to introduce again who is Venerable Master Xingyun. And in the Philippines, it's because of the compassionate heart of Venerable Master Xingyun that we have two schools, Guangming College in Manila and Guangming Performing Arts in Cebu. And so that's a testament to what the Venerable Master Xingyun has done to the Philippines. And that's a good way of, engaging people to know more about what Fo Guangshan is, what humanistic Buddhism is all about. Then next on my list is to engage in various activities. So it's good to engage in various activities. Like, for example, especially the new generation, we have to, collaborate with them, engage with them. So I remember last year, I had the privilege to join the 3 Acts of Goodness songwriting competition in Taiwan in January, and in August, or was it September, Sounds of the Human World in Malaysia. So what am I saying here? So I collaborated with others, with the youth. I don't know how to sing. I cannot play piano or any musical instrument, but I think I can write a little. So I collaborated with someone who cannot really write lyrics, but can sing very well, but cannot play the piano. So the 3 of us collaborated, and it was a good experience. And through this, we are able to enjoin people, right, to know more about what this humanistic Buddhism is all about and how to promote it to others. So I think these are the strategies that are very important and that are very useful coming from my vantage point in the Philippines. Thank you.
Interesting insight from Dr. Mario. So we will invite Associate Professor Dr. Marcus to share his perspective. He can't wait for it.
So I'm mostly working on the academic side of things, so I'm not so good in promoting Buddhism as a practice, unfortunately. I mean, perhaps when I'm getting a little older, I can do this. But I have brought a friend. So what was the question again? Ask me again.
Okay, the question here is, what strategies, he's texting again. What strategies do you think would be successful in bridging the gap between the older generation and the youth in terms of passing on the good practice of Buddhists?
Can you show my screen? Tech? Can you show my screen?
Can we ask the tech team to show Marcus' screen? There you go.
It's a good friend. Because it's a good friend of mine, it says similar things, right? So first it says, I don't really know much about it, or so. So it says, I have not have enough context, expertise to passing on Buddhist teachings. So first of all, Dharma immediately picks up Buddhist teachings, right? Which is not necessary. I mean, in the Indian religious sphere, many Indian religions talk about Dharma, right? So other religions that use Dharma. And across generations, general suggestions. Let's see how they mesh with Professor Maria's. Make the teachings accessible and relevant to the younger generation's cultural context and daily life. adapt communication styles, use relatable examples, and leverage appropriate media. What Fasche has been talking about, right? Emphasize the practical benefits of the teaching, how they can reduce suffering and bring more happiness and meaning to people's life today. Focus less on the theoretical aspects, like stuff that I am doing. Let's not forget that. Establish personal connections between elders and youth. We had that personal connections, social interactions after coming out of COVID, right, this morning. Relationships and leading by example help inspire interest and commitment. Support study and practice programs specifically for young people, creating welcoming spaces for them. Like this is an interesting, I know these grotto, these panoramic spaces. I have met Jeff Shore a long time ago in Hong Kong, and they were working on Hampi spaces in India. So this kind of space remains an important category, even if it's virtual space, right? Encourage questioning, debate, and self-discovery rather than dogmatic beliefs. We haven't talked about that so much. Help bring the teachings alive rather than just preserve traditions. Train qualified teachers, and we haven't talked about that either, right? So what's the training? So it's not just stuff, it doesn't just throw stuff back at us, what we have already mentioned. It also actually manages to add things to our agenda and gives ideas about for another panel or so, right? How do we train teachers actually, right? For younger people. Succession planning is key for continuity, as everybody who works in large Buddhist organization knows, right? Right, and the specifics would likely depend on the particular Buddhist lineage and community involved. Very smart observation actually, right? Depends really on what kind of Buddhism you're talking about. By emphasizing relevance, relationship, and experiential insight may help plant healthy seeds across generations. So I was using flame here, right? Passing the flame of the Dharma, and it switches the register to something which pops up in many sutras. For example, the idea of planting a seed and the causality of the seed or so. So all over, for me, the question is, what can I say that this cannot say, right? So in a way, when we meet together and have these kind of exchanges in the future, we need to make sure we say something that cannot be said by an AGI, which is going to get increasingly more difficult.
Okay, this is a legit demonstration by Associate Professor Dr. Marcus how AI could actually become a tool that could give us an idea about a topic, right? But I do agree with him. So when we ask the questions, of course, we're looking for perspective and insights that are not generated by AI. So that is what makes it more valuable to have a forum of discussion, right? And I'm sure all of you have heard this. When someone asks you a short question, we are actually expecting an insightful response coming from the experts, right? So I think this is a good exemplification of AI. So I don't know if Associate Professor Dr. Marcus or Venerable Myung Kwang would like to extend on this discussion, how AI actually helps us to extend the Buddhist teaching, the Dharma, treaties with goods.
I think based on the demonstration which Marcus has shown us, it opens up our scopes of thinking. But at the same time, these scopes of thinking are still within human perception, isn't it? Because these are all information fed into the system by AI. In other words, to me, AI is a prediction of accumulated data. And it's a prediction of patterns based on this accumulated data to help us think on a broader perspective. And so what is left is actually the question of, in delivering the teachings of the Dharma, I think we touched a little bit on the ethical scope. Right? Can AI actually go out of the ethical scope in its creation and mislead human beings? And so just a few months ago, Venerable Zhiyue actually taught our whole office how to use AI to create images, to generate photos, right, paintings and everything. So our first question was, can you generate an image of a bodhisattva using a laptop? And so what she did was, she used Midjourney bot to generate a picture of a bodhisattva exactly as we know, on the ones you see around the wall. Right? Traditional Chinese robe, right? Looking ladylike, very gentle, very graceful. and she's sitting there cross-legged with a Macintosh laptop. I believe it's a Mac Air in her lap. So that was the first thing. So first of all, the term bodhisattva as perceived by AI is really as we perceive it. But if you come to the temple and you say, 老菩萨你好, right? This 老菩萨 is actually very different. So I asked AI, can you draw a picture of a 老菩萨 holding a laptop? And that generated picture became the exact image with that lady who has now wrinkles on her face. So that's the definition of 老菩萨. Yeah, so that's one thing. So that's kind of what got me thinking, how do we actually teach AI in understanding our understanding? And the next thing I wanted to have a little bit of fun. I said, can you generate an image of a 老菩萨 spanking her grandson? Okay? 老菩萨打孙子嘛. And then, to my surprise, what Midjourney bot gave me was actually a mother gently and lovingly cuddling a little boy. And with that, at the end of the comment, it says, sorry, I'm not given the liberty to portray any images of violence, or harm, yeah. So AI disappointed me with my question, but AI surprised me in terms of how the humans behind this set of data actually programmed the software to work with human beings. So at this point, we would say they still pretty much know what is within the scope of human ethics. And so in the teaching of the Dharmas, I think it's also the same. We always begin with establishing proper human relationships, proper relationships with ourselves. Right? And this will lead in, branch out into our relationship with the world and society and so on. And so, in your question in terms of how do we actually really spread or share the teachings of the Dharma, I think at the end of the day, on top of the list of suggestions that AI can really give to us, it's actually the value that lies behind it that will continue to affect future generations. So when they, when the future generations become very creative and quote unquote naughty in asking AI to give them something that they're imagining, I think AI still plays a very important role in guidance. And I would say this is probably one of the most important things, because you don't need to ask AI to teach you to learn the sutra anymore. Yeah, I think human beings already know what is actually in the sutras. But what we want from AI is actually what are the values we can dig out of every text or every sutra or every teaching. So this was the example I got. I had fun generating the pictures, and AI actually taught me a lesson. So I would never ask AI to draw a 老菩萨 spanking her grandson ever again. Thank you.
So we're going to open it because we still have some time. So we're going to open it up to our panel. Is there anything that you would like to add on or chime into the discussion? That Venerable Myung Guang has just said that very insightful, very relatable, and it's very current, right? Yeah, so perhaps we could start with our panel. Is there anything that you would like to add on before we move to our audience? Okay, they're not looking at me. Okay, that's the common one. When I'm teaching in the university, whenever I pose the questions, my students just look away. They don't want to look at me. Okay, in that case, we will open it up to the crowd. So do you have any comments, feedback, or any experiences that you could relate to what Venerable Myung Guang has just shared with us and in line with our theme today? Wisdom and innovation, passing on the lights to our youth, younger generations. So anyone, if you would like to add on, share a comment, experiences, perhaps you could just raise your hand and our team will actually pass a mic to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. First of all, I thank our panelists for the really wonderful sharing. And I just want to piggyback on Marcus' really wonderful kind of demonstration. And I think this is something that I think we need, especially when we think about AI, is to actually take a look at AI itself, because I think a lot of people are kind of reluctant and they are not exactly sure what AI is about. And because of that, because of this lack of knowledge, ignorance, they tend to shy away from the use of AI or tend to think about it in a very negative way. So I think a way that I think we can use AI is to think about that in the spirit of Buddhism, right? We think about the idea of ipasiko, don't just believe, come and see yourself. And also in the spirit of what the Buddha talked about in the context of the kalama, right? That you take a look at it, understand what it is about. If you think it's useful, then embrace it. If you don't think that it's useful at all, then abandon it. And after all, at the end of the day, AI and the advancement of technology is just going to happen. We are just not going to be able to stop that. So instead of just shying away from that or seeing it in a negative light, why not take a look at it, see how it can benefit you, and if not, then then maybe you don't use that. So I think this is something that we can think about. And for our Singaporean audience, you're familiar with Phua Chu Kang, right? There's always saying, use your brain, right? Yeah. So something about that. That's something you can think about, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Associate Professor Jack Cha. I cannot agree more with his perspective. We have to move forward, right? We cannot stay where we're comfortable. AI is bound to happen. It's just going to be better and better. So why not move along and see what we can learn from those platforms instead of being reluctant and shying away from it? There is something that we can get and learn from it, as well as teaching our youth, the generation upcoming, how we could leverage on that in terms of Buddhist teaching as well. So now that I've looked from the left side, I'm going to look at my right side now, audience. Anyone on my right side that would like to share? Don't be shy. You can just raise your hand. Okay, great.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Ziyue, and I'm from Venerable Miao Guang's department. And she was the one who mentioned Mid-Journey AI, and then Venerable Miao Guang asked me to do a demo to our department. And I think in terms of AI, I think most people are worried that AI will one day take over society and replace human beings, or one day we will all be ruled by AI. But my perspective is that if it's meant to be, if we were to be ruled by AI, then maybe we as Buddhist practitioners, when we use it, it will be trained on this Buddhist data. So if in the future we are ruled by AI, I would like to be ruled by AI who has been trained in Buddhist thought. But that's just a joke aside. I think in terms of using AI, it's a tool. And every time a new tool has come out, a new technology has come out, we always have this two sets of people. One who embraces it and another who is more traditional. So for example, when the technology of writing and printing came out, then there's also a debate of whether the Buddhist teachings should be written down, because the Buddha, during the Buddha's time, the teachings were passed down orally. So likewise, when the computer technology came out, should Buddhist texts be digitized? This is also subject to much debate. So likewise, I think with AI, we should treat it as a tool, as well as something that is neutral. It's not good or bad, but rather it is the person who is using it who gives it that, I guess, sense of whether it's wholesome or unwholesome. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your insight on that. I think that is also another question to think about. Digitalize, right? Whether we want our written transcript or manuscript or dharma to be translated into digital form. I see some hands here from this side. Okay, Dr. Tan.
I just, after listening to the panels and the sharings by Venerable Ziyue, I'm thinking maybe this is just a suggestion. Why don't Fo Guang Shan consider to create a generative AIs that like Buddha? We ask that ChatGPT Buddha version, and then it will be like as if it is the Buddha teachings that teach us. This is just one of the suggestions. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, if I could quickly respond to Dr. Tan's suggestion, I believe this form of AI was already in shape, created by Beijing Longchen Temple about 7 or 8 years ago. Right, they created the bot called 贤恶, right, the 贤恶 bot, and you could ask it any question. For example, if you ask it, 我压力好大怎么办? Yeah, and 贤恶's answer was, 你的生活可能太紧凑了，你需要放轻松。好，诵诵心经，拜拜佛，深呼吸，好，这样你就可以放轻松。Yeah. And this happened about 6 or 7 years ago, and I was already very impressed with the answers created by the 贤恶 bot. And I mean, it helps, doesn't it? I think, just like the lady I met on the plane, every day all we are seeking is someone whom we can talk to, someone who will pay attention to our words, and someone would give an answer in relevant words. Are you yawning? Just kidding, just kidding. Yeah. And so all of these bots, something relevant to the delivery of Dharma, I believe is already within the consideration of a lot of the Buddhist organizations. I mean, a lot of people are talking to us about how do we create an AI version of Venerable Master Xing Yun. And I believe we already have a data set. I mean, his complete works is already a data set that spans about 400 volumes in Chinese. And then we also have the videos, recordings of his Dharma talks. And it's totally possible for us to render a hologram of Venerable Master Xing Yun, and you could ask him a question. What is the Buddhist perspective to suicide? Then you will find an answer from there, right, in his voice. Yeah, so technology has it, and the soul is actually the soul. The chocolate is actually the words, the writings, and the wisdom of Venerable Master Xing Yun. So I would say, if we know how to work with AI, how to let AI work with us. I like the word you can actually share today, to be dogged by someone. Are we going to be dogged by AI? Led into a pit, knowing that it's dangerous and still move forward? Or do we learn to also work and collaborate with AI so it works for us? So I think in that case, when we integrate the Dharma and the Master's wisdom into it, that's totally feasible, and it's already happening. So I think maybe 2 years, 3 years later, you will see that, Dr. Tan. Yeah.
Thank you so much to our panels. I think our time is almost up. So maybe we'll just open for one more if there's any from our crowds. Yeah. Do you have any comments, feedbacks, or your own personal experiences that you could relate to our discussion today? You're more than welcome to share them here. Anyone? Yeah, I see someone patting the other side. Yes, you're the one.
Or if I could ask you, if you had an AI version of Venerable Master Xing Yun on your smartphone, can I ask what question or what would you say to this AI Venerable Master? Would anyone like to share? Oh, where are you? 大师会说我在你心里 I'm in your heart.
Lovely from the response from Venerable Miao Guang. Thank you so much. So I think that marks the end of our forum today. So before we end, I just would like to say thank you so much to our panel, Venerable Miao Guang, Associate Professor Dr. Marcus, and Dr. Perino Murray. And thank you so much to our audience. You have been fantastic. Thank you so much for becoming an attentive listener. Thank you.